Hello everyone and welcome to my mono water deck. I took this for the Crystal Cup in Boston. I got top 4. Some of you might already know that, but for those who don't, I went through, there was almost 100 people, so there was 7 rounds of Swiss. I went 6-1 in Swiss. My only loss was against my teammate, Warsaw. He was piloting Mono Lightning. I will have a tournament report for you up on TCG Titans, and hopefully I'll have that soon to you, or it should be up already by the time this video goes up, so make sure to check that out. It goes into further detail of my matchups, what exactly I use to win, and so on and so forth. But for this video, I just want to talk about the deck, why I chose these cards, and pretty much how it works. I'll go over the combos with you after, like I always do. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so first is Ephemeral Summoner. I'm playing triple Ephemeral. The main reason I decided to play this was because you'll notice in my backups I'm playing Fusoya. Fusoya was kind of the idea behind this deck. So I noticed that in the Shiba's top 8 and in Ohio there was 2 Lightning Water Fusoyas decks. And previously, a week before this tournament, we were at Ivlis and Sam and the Choco Bros piloted the Palimporum deck, and it used Fusoya as well. Now, I've always been aware of Fusoya and what it can do, and I lost to it really bad at Ivlis playing my Ice Water deck. I will share that deck with you soon, don't worry guys, it's just I've had a lot of stuff going on, especially prepping for Boston. So bear with me and you'll get that too. So the thing is, with Fusoya, you can pretty much deal with the Ice matchup by itself, unless they have Duke Large. And a lot of the times you can just remove forwards. Most of the forwards that people play are 7k, and you know, Fusoya, even though it does take a point of damage, you're kind of setting your opponent back the whole turn. Like when you're playing tempo, you're gonna keep going, but they're gonna keep retrying to set up. And so the idea behind triple Ephemeral was I wanted to set up what I did to take damage if I could. Obviously, I'm playing the EX Burst, Leviathan, and other stuff like that, but Ephemeral helps you get those plays off. And I'll go into those again later. So Triple Ash, the Triple Ash was for the Lightning matchups. Because I play Lightning so often, it's at locals, and my teammate runs it very well. I'm used to it, and I know that a big problem for Lightning, Fire, and even sometimes Ice is Ash. Ash will reactivate herself. Ash gets stronger, and now with the new Opus 5 cards, Ash is a big deal. Ash isn't going to get broken as easily. So I had to play her at triple 3 this time. I'm running double Beatrix, 2 Beatrix. I'm considering that I'm only running 2, and that she really did great things this weekend. I want to put this up to 3. The other thing that I would have changed might have been the Refia, but Beatrix is very important for this deck as well. I started thinking about how to fix the problem with when Ice or anyone gets those 8Ks, and I feel like Fusoya falls a little short, especially since I don't have other ways of doing damage. But Beatrix reduces the board by 1K, your opponent's board by 1K, and that compensates for the buffs they get and stuff like that. The rest is a little, not the rest, but Kegnazo, double Kegnazo obviously, because we need a board wipe. Everyone's always telling me you should fit in a triple Kegnazo, but to me Kegnazo is like a late game last minute thing, like to help push. It's not necessarily build up weight like most other mono water decks kind of are, in my opinion. They kind of just build up their backups, build up their forwards or monsters in some cases, and then they'll just Kegnazo for a board wipe. I like to play the game like as I go, like keeping you behind. And Kegnazo for me is not only a board wipe, that's why I'm only running it at 2, but it does help me set up like the Fusoya, and it helps me set up my other cards that reduce. So there's a lot of reduction in this deck. And one of the All-Stars of the weekend was Mog 6. Now I've talked about this before when I was playing my other mono water decks, but this card honestly put in a lot of work this week. I want to say I opened it up in Swiss. I probably opened up at least 4 times Mog, and it was right against the right matchups. I would never do it. I would never open Mog against Lightning or Fire, but I did play a lot of Earth, and I played the Water standard units, and I dropped first turn Mog after I saw. So they would go first. I lost the dice roll. I think it's very important to lose the dice roll if you're gonna play, if you open Mog, because you get to see what they're playing. So when I noticed that they dropped an Earth card or a Wind card or a Water card, I go, all right, I'm set. Like, so I would drop a backup and then drop Mog. So I would end up with 1 card in my hand or 2 cards in my hand, and then I drew 3 cards for about 4 to 6 turns every time he came out. Now your opponent is, catching up. They're playing their normal game, but you're playing a faster game already. And to be honest, there's very few decks that have the answers, but they don't want to waste them so early, or they have to minus in order to use it. And again, I've said this before in my previous mono water deck, but opening Mog is just as good as opening a backup, if not better. So that's why I started doing both at the same time. Like if I opened a 2-cost and Mog, I kept the hand for sure. So I would drop the 2-cost backup, drop Mog, and then proceed. I'll get into more with that with him later for some of the plays. Refia, I felt Refia was great, but I never got to use her second ability. To me, she just became another buff. She just sat there and buffed people. I did obviously swing with her, when I needed to, but I didn't use her second ability. Like I mentioned with Cagnazzo, I didn't get to that late game for the most part. I know my tournament report will say that I took a lot of damage because I was using Fusoya, and I think it's funny that at the Crystal Cup they were using that as to help keep score and tiebreakers and stuff like that. How much damage you took and how much damage you dealt. And yeah, Fusoya didn't help with that. But anyway, Refia, I kind of just felt like she was a buff. Sometimes I didn't use her second effect because we never got to that point. So if I had the option, I remember pitching her mostly. But I think 2 is a good number. So, if you're playing a different kind of water deck where you just want to stay tempo and hold off into the late game, then yeah, Refia is going to be a greater card and definitely bump her up to 3. But that's not my style of playing, and I didn't want to play that in this way. The triple Steiner, again, the important thing about this deck is that I'm controlling my damage, and you have to think about it when you're playing this the whole time. So you would, if I did open Fusoya, I would put it out and hopefully draw into the Steiners after I've taken 3 damage. That way Steiner's always got his value, and even though in the games, so Warsaw mentioned that he would win his games in 8 minutes or less, and he wouldn't receive any points of damage. That's great and all, but sometimes you don't get that luxury, and sometimes Steiner's dead. I don't think he's a good card. Don't get me wrong, he's strong, but it's better to get the value, and if I can increase the odds of getting to him, getting that value, it's better for me. So I felt like playing triple of him was important. And same thing with the next card, Titus, however you guys want to call him. But I was bent on playing him the whole weekend. I was told by several players not to, and I. Stubbornly, I disagreed. I stuck with him, and honestly, I blitz aced 5 times. Again, because I was monitoring. The important thing when you're playing this deck is that you monitor your damage the whole game. You kind of lure them into attacking you when you have a summon there to kind of remove 2 things, or you have Fusoya keep you there. And when I had the chance, I would always play Titus, and then normally the rest of the board would be set up and they didn't have anything, or they'd have to waste resources already to answer your current things. Because like I said, when Fusoya is removing things, they won't have answers when Titus comes on board. And usually after 4 or 5 points, I'll have them at 2 or 3, maybe even 4, and then I can blitz ace for the rest of them. I did get away with it all weekend, so I was happy for that. The 2 Cecil, of course, Cecil's another buff, but I do need him to help protect the weaker things, and the Steiner Cecil combo is still great. Dulling him so he doesn't have to block, making Steiner a 10k. With Waka, Waka is 11k, and then with Refia is 12. Sorry about that, guys. That was my phone. I should always leave it on silent, but I always forget to. And Cloud of Darkness, I'm only playing the one of. I would have liked to fit a second one, but I couldn't get in there. I couldn't figure out what to take out. But again, same thing with reduction. If I do have Fusoya and I do have enough forwards to reduce something, I will do that. I will reduce summon Cloud of Darkness and then activate Fusoya to break it. And Lena is just for more to increase both the amount of reduction Cloud of Darkness does, and then to it's just value obviously at the end of it. You'll Lena into Ephemeral. Ephemeral will choose a summon. If you're not gonna get hit with damage this turn, then definitely grab Bismarck. But if you are gonna get hit, if you're planning on getting hit next turn, or you have Fusoya, then choose the Leviathan or the Cuchulain, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, that's it for the forwards. Going into the backups, it's very simple. I feel like Water has probably the simplest backups when it comes to what to choose and what not to choose. There's obviously new ones like Green Mage, and I would really like to fit in here, but I didn't think it was that important, honestly. So going into it real quick, 2 Astrologian, also for the Ice matchup, and just to help keep you guys alive. They're not all Ash, and they can't all bring themselves back to to the active state. So Astrologian, 2 Astrologian helps with that. I had to play the Triple Wrestler because I wanted to keep Ash alive as long as I did. I knew keeping her in the game for the whole tournament, like for all the rounds, were very important. When I drew her, she stayed alive the whole game, like by hands down. Like especially against the Mono Lightning matchups, she just stayed there swinging for damage. And if they try to answer it, like if they try to swing, I would activate Bismarck or Cuchulain, whatever. It was all. She dealt with everything. Now I'm only playing double Scholar. The reason I brought down Scholar to 2, again, because I have Kegnazo to 2, but also Bismarck lets me return things back to my hand. The worst case scenario, I don't think I had to do it this weekend, but you can always Kegnazo, pay 1 CP for Bismarck if you have Yuna out, and then bring Kegnazo back and play it again. It just helps you save like 2 CP if you, or like pitching a card if you need to. So I did bring Scholar back down. Honestly, I used Scholar more times this weekend to bring back other forwards. Like I brought back an Ash that I knew was getting broken by something else, or because people sometimes they have to overextend to deal with Ash. So when she got Cyclops, or when she got I can't remember the other ones, but she was going to be broken by other cards, so I had to Scholar her to save her, and then I brought her back out next turn, and then. Yeah, that didn't. It definitely became another problem for them, just because they've exhausted resources that they would have normally had to save for other things, and then she just came back anyway. I also scholared Tidus, I believe, once to Blitz Ace, like the following turn. Like I summoned him, and then on my next one, I went in again to Blitz Ace. And then the triple Yuna, obviously, Cuchulain is such a good card. I need him to cost less. And same thing with Leviathan, and same thing with Bismarck. All those summons are great, but they definitely, if you can save CP all throughout the game, that's very important. CP value is just something that helps you stay in the game. And for being a Fusoya deck, I know it's strange only playing 2, but it was fine. The numbers are great playing 2. The reason I didn't bump to 3 is because I couldn't fit in Mog or Poo to fit in there to discard the extra ones. There was a lot of games where I had an extra Fusoya sitting in my hand. It's easy when you're fighting against Ice, then you'll just discard that one. Obviously, first saves you a headache, at least for one turn. But for the rest, it's it'll stay in your hand all day. I think actually one Earth matchup they destroyed Fusoya, and I was able to drop the next one, and they were upset. But oh well, that's what happens. And then Minwoo, obviously for more lightning protection, and just. Obviously to help with the other combos, like have Tidus swing through everyone, and so you don't take damage. Obviously, this is the first time I brought him down to 2, but I think what happened is I wanted to get out of the comfort zone of relying on him and help play differently, and it felt like I had to a lot of the times because I didn't have the Minwoo when I needed him. But Cecil does help with some of that to some extent. And of course, Triple Waka, everyone's water. I needed to get that out as soon as possible. So that's that. And now I've already mentioned them throughout this whole video, but the summons are simple. Double Bismarck, triple Leviathan, and triple Cuchulain. 2 of them are EX-Burst, Leviathan and Cuchulain are EX-Burst, but those are the summons. Yeah, that's about it. I think I can get straight into the combos now for you guys. this is the deck. I went 6-1 Swiss, and then I made it to top 4. I ultimately lost to Max Williams and his Mono Water Monsters. I guess this deck might not do so well against a mirror match like that kind of waits for that late game. But the real problem was that like game 1 there was Emperor, and when Emperor's out, if you can't get rid of him, unfortunately, like Fusoya sits there. And if you are playing the water, if you are playing any monster variants, Fusoya is very important. So not being able to, activate it is a problem. And I hate monsters. They just it's different when you're playing a game that revolves around forwards and stuff like that. And they can, although they're not forwards yet, but your effects, all my effects resolve while they're still monsters, and so it's hard to deal with something like that. Example, Beatrix, Cagnazzo, or even Cloud of Darkness. Those are like my reduction tools for this game. They have to be used. Those are offensively, but they have to be used. I have to find other ways to use defensively, and I can't do that when they're untargetable because they're not forwards yet. And that's that. That's just my take on monsters. I do want to build a monster deck now. Sam did help me test against water wind monsters, and that was annoying too, so I knew I was going to have a hard matchup. But like I said, the summons are explanatory. Bismarck mostly to half them, and Leviathan to remove stuff, and Chugulain to reduce and break stuff like that. Also, you like drawing cards. That's another thing. Well, I guess I'll show you that in the videos in a sec. So let's go straight into the combos, guys. So now, going over this, it's going to be it's pretty simple. And I want to do this just so you guys can see kind of the idea of what I went through most of the day. Again, one of the more important things is having Fusoya on the board. Obviously, Waka just a buff, and Yuna for the summons. For this one, they're just going to stay here. I'll pull them back a little bit, actually, a little off camera, just so I can show you stuff. But when dealing with 7K or anything under, obviously, Fusoya by itself will help deal with that. Now, dealing with AKs was my problem with Fusoya in the first place. I always thought, like, oh, everyone plays the buff anyway. Everyone plays either Maria, for the dual colors, anything with wind, or obviously Lebro, or Waka, or Duke Large, or anything like that, Lulu. So how did I fix that? Like, the real thing behind it was Beatrix. Now I said, and I mentioned that I'm only playing 2, but it worked out very well for me throughout the day. But you'll attack, reducing your opponent's board by 1k, and then when that resolves before block, you can always just Fusoya to break it. They won't have a forward to block, the damage will go through, and they'll take a point of damage. That's the main thing. That's how you deal with AKs. I broke Clouds, Celeste, Sabins like this, Vincent's, Ishtola, a ton of things throughout the week, and that was just easy. Just the problem. That's all it takes, really. People were already annoyed with Beatrix because she reduces things. Even if you don't have Fusoya on the board, her at 8k, 9k if you have Steiner on board, just means that she's going to be a problem. No one's ever going to block because you're already being reduced. It's going to force them to play cards. I love Beatrix. She's a great card. I'm going to try to fit a third one in here just to make sure this happens more often. Now, the other thing to get into, obviously, is after you've taken 3 points of damage, whatever they may be, Steiner will always let you draw the card. That's very simple. The other thing you want to do is, if you have Fusoya and you have Chugulain in your hand, this is another way for you. Chugulain or Cloud of Darkness are just other ways for you to reduce as you're going throughout the game to break their forwards. You can always swing, reduce by, let's say, 3k in this one, and you can always Fusoya it at the same time. That'll be another way to deal with that. Now, the main combo, obviously, is to have Ephemeral Summoner bring out, choose. So let's say you summon Ephemeral. You can either pick Chugulain or Leviathan. If your opponent has one forward that's really strong, let's say Guy or, I don't know, something at 9k, anything like that, and they've already summoned it and it's their turn, they have things in Dole, like their backups, they use their backups to Dole them, then always go for Chugulain. You'll put it on top of your deck, and then you will play Fusoya, target it, deal it 7k, and then reduce it. Once it's been reduced beyond the point it's taking damage, it will break and you will draw a card. So you're going to break, you are taking a point of damage again, but you are going to draw a card, and then you have a forward, and then you're going to be able to swing for damage. This is the value play. This is the most important, one of the most important ones. And yeah, that's how that goes. Now, if your opponent has 2 forwards and you play Ephemeral, and you have either Cloud of Darkness or Beatrix, which was another thing that happened a lot throughout the week, is you'll put Leviathan on top of your deck, you will do Fusoya, you will deal something 7k, and then you will lift the other one back into their hand. Now what this does, so a lot of decks, they all have, so Lightning has Raiden, we have Sildra, but Sildra's super, like, it's too expensive, even with Yuna. It's a 5 cost summon. I don't want to pay for that. Like, if I'm paying for 5 costs, it's for bodies that do things, or for plays, or for special effects, like her, or like Lena, or something like that. But honestly, I've never played Sildra. I've never liked Sildra. I've always found it too expensive. I don't know how people always fit in Raiden and Bahamut and all of these new summons. I don't like paying for 7 costs for stuff like that. So this is the next best thing. This is how we remove 2 things from the board. You will break one if it's less than. Let's say I have Vincent and Yuffie. I will Fusoya the Yuffie, and then Leviathan will trigger, and I will send Vincent back. Now, if it doesn't kill the first target, but it does lift the second one, then I can always, you know, Beatrix or Cloud of Darkness to reduce it beyond, you know, to the point where it breaks. And that was really just what I did throughout the day. Those were all the combos. That was it, really. It's this simple. It's this, and this, and then you choosing your summons. Having Ephemeral dictate what you're going to put on the board as damage. You know, you're not always going to do this, obviously. And let's be real, sometimes you're going to get lucky without Ephemeral. It just happens that way. I would have liked to have find a way to increase, you know, the EX burst in this deck. Or I'm kind of thinking of doing this with another deck that I had in mind that has a lot of EX bursts. That way you're always getting value no matter what you're going to do. But I'll share that with you guys another time. Again, I want to thank the Joker Bros for showing me all the things. I knew what he could do, but they showed me firsthand what a lot of the possibilities of this are, and it's honestly opened up a lot of things for me. I see why they play it in the Water Lightning Ephemeral, Water Lightning Fusoya deck exists, and why it does so good. And I guess the last thing is just, obviously, for value, just land into Ephemeral and then, you know, do that. But yeah, Kegna's was also another thing that reduces. You can always pop with Fusoya. And then when you've taken enough damage, you have Tidus. Let's say you've taken 5 damage. Tidus will help you Blitz Ace. You always want to save him. You never want to open Tidus. Tidus is the worst card to open for this deck anyway. I don't know about other decks, but he is the worst. He's the last thing you want to draw. You want to draw into him. You want to get him, have at least 2 things on the board, Waka and or Refia, put him out, wait a turn or so, have this deal extra damage, clear the board, force your opponent to use things, and then just Blitz Ace. But yeah, guys, that's it for the deck. I hope you liked it. I encourage anybody to play it. Like, please play it, test it, let me know whether you hate it or love it. It did really good for me. Just one final shout out again. I love this card. Mog is my favorite water forward in the game right now. Some people were telling me I should play Strago just to add to him, but that's unnecessary. Just because they're category 6s doesn't mean you have to play them. Most decks will, the cards are good enough on their own. So if you're playing water, play Mog. It's a great first turn play. Trust me. But that's it for me, guys. This is Emo Tempest. I'll see you guys next week, obviously, but in tournaments, we're going to try to go to Kansas. I'm not sure yet. Don't hold me to it. But yeah, I'll see you guys later.